background to this article was really as a follow-up from some earlier work by John Huxley and Becky Way, published just over 10 years ago, where they asked UK cattle vets to assign pain scores across a variety of different procedures and conditions in calves and cattle, and asked about respondents' use of analgesics for those same set of procedures and conditions. Obviously, quite a lot has changed in the intervening 10 years or so, notably availability and pricing of analgesics for cattle, teaching in UK vet schools, and perhaps also the attitudes of dairy farmers. So we were quite interested in refreshing and updating those findings, and also in using some more advanced statistical techniques on the data to give us a little bit more insight. So we repeated this survey using the same content but different mode of delivery. So we did this both as an online questionnaire and using a paper format too, as part of an undergraduate research project here at Nottingham Vet School during autumn 2013. The survey asked respondents to rate pain on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 was no pain and 10 the most severe pain imaginable. So you can see the range of conditions and procedures that we asked about on the figure on the left-hand side there. Yellow relates to conditions or procedures in calves, and red ones relate to adult cattle. So the left-hand figure there is a box plot showing the distribution of scores that we got across all respondents for each procedure or condition. So the thick line in the centre of the box there represents the median or middle score, the coloured red or yellow box, the range of scores assigned by the middle 50% of respondents, and the whiskers on either side represent the full range. Those are ordered, the conditions and procedures are ordered from those assigned the highest scores at the top to those assigned the lowest scores at the bottom, and you can see, unsurprisingly, things like fractures and claw amputations are assigned the highest pain scores, while things like hock, hair loss and neck callus get the lowest pain scores. Interesting things to note, I guess, are the very wide range assigned across almost all of the pain scores, so almost the whole range of the scale is used for most of the procedures and conditions. The arrows indicate where the median pain score has changed compared to the earlier survey from about 10 years ago, and we can see that in around half of the conditions, median pain score has gone up just by 1 point. There was no changes that were bigger than that, and for just one condition, which was LDA surgery, the median pain score is actually a point lower than it was in the earlier survey. We also looked at associations between the pain scores that a respondent assigned and their demographic kind of background information, and when we used multivariable statistics, so we put all of the potential predictors into the same model, only 2 of them were significantly associated with pain score. So you can see those on the right hand side there. Graduates from before 1990 assigned pain scores that were half a point on average lower than graduates from 2010 or later, with no significant differences in the years between, and female respondents assigned pain scores that were about 0.4 higher, 0.4 points higher than male respondents. And because we used multivariable statistics to test this, we're able to show that those 2 effects are independent and separate. Obviously, the gender balance of vet graduates has altered quite a lot over that time period, but these results show that both of those are important factors here. This graph again shows us the distribution of pain scores across a sample of the procedures and conditions that we saw on the last page. So the red box plots really represent the same thing. They're vertical this time rather than horizontal. And this graph also gives us a measure of analgesic use. So the outcome we're interested in this time is what proportion of respondents are using a particular type of analgesia in at least 50% of the cases they see. And the type of analgesia we've chosen here is NSAID or non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. So we've chosen these because these represent the longer term option for analgesia in cattle. This is the option that lasts more than a few hours. So we can see that perhaps unsurprisingly, there's quite a strong trend for conditions and procedures that are perceived as more painful to receive more NSAIDs. So where the red box plot is higher, the blue bar also tends to be higher. But there's a small subset of conditions where this trend really seems to break down. So most notably for castration and disbudding in calves and dehorning in adult cattle, pain scores assigned are quite high, but use of NSAIDs is relatively low. And when we apply some multivariable statistics to that, we can find that those effects are significant and still stay there even if we take into effect other significant factors that predict use of analgesia, so things like gender and year of graduation, again turn out to be significant. So it appears that there's some conditions where that association really seems to break down. So to sum up, it appears that perception of pain in cattle is on the increase amongst UK cattle vets, and use of analgesia is also showing quite an encouraging trend. However, use of NSAID analgesia in particular for disbudding and castration in calves really still seems to be lagging behind for these really common conditions. And I think this is really strong evidence that it's worth discussing this more with cattle farmers and ensuring that there's a good two-way discussion between farmer and vet on whether and how to incorporate this in the farm's routine policies. And this has formed the basis of a position statement, a joint position statement between BCVA and the British Veterinary Association, supporting routine and regular use of NSAIDs for all calf disbudding and castration. Thanks very much for watching, and if you have any questions at all, please feel free to get in touch.